Good evening and welcome to Te Herenga Waka, Victoria University of Wellington. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Tonight's postgraduate study webinar will focus on our research degrees. This includes master degrees with a thesis requirement as well as our PhDs. My name is Rachel Manirakiza and I'm the Business Development Manager in the Student Recruitment and Orientation team. I'm beaming to you from our Victoria University of Wellington's Auckland premises, and joining me tonight are two of my Wellington-based colleagues from our Faculty of Graduate Research. We have Professor Neil Dodgson, whom you will hear from shortly, and Philippa Race, who's helping out with the Q&A behind the scenes. Professor Neil Dodgson will start with a presentation this evening, and this will be followed by live Q&A. The university recognises that for many people this year has come with some big challenges and with the need to adapt to different situations. We also hope that all of this change has come with opportunity and a chance to think about our future. And some of you might be thinking about postgraduate study to progress in your career and open up possibilities for new and exciting roles, and others might want to investigate a particular issue to gain a greater understanding or find a solution to a specific problem. Professor Neil Dodgson from the Faculty of Graduate Research is here this evening to talk about research at Victoria University of Wellington, how research degrees work, and where a research degree might take you. Neil is the Dean of our Faculty of Graduate Research, and the Wellington Faculty of Graduate Research oversees all doctoral degrees and ensures that your experience as a thesis student is a positive one. Thank you, Neil, for being here this evening to explain more about research degrees at Victoria University of Wellington.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Te lauwha lava. Good evening to you all. Nau mai ki tēnei whare wānanga o tātou. Welcome to this university of ours. I'm Neil Dodgson. I run the Faculty of Graduate Research, which looks after the 1,000 PhD students and 600 research master students that we have here at Te Herenga Waka, Victoria University of Wellington. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to this webinar where we'll explain something about how you go about doing a research degree, why you do it here, and how you can apply to join us. But first, let's talk about Te Herenga Waka. It's the Maori name for our university, and this photograph is the marae. The marae is at the very heart of our central campus. And we like to think that the marae is also at the heart of our entire university's ethos. Te Herenga Waka means the hitching place of the canoe, or more literally, the hitching place for the fleet of canoes. So the idea is that you bring your personal waka here, you hitch your canoe to us for a while, you learn, you develop, you grow, and then you unhitch your canoe and you sail off into a bright and better future. So I know that you're here and that many of you have different reasons for wanting to be here on different degrees you're interested in. So I'm going to ask Rachel to launch a poll now to find out what degrees people are interested in so we can steer the discussion tonight in the right direction. So we're interested in what type of degree you're interested. Are you here to find out about doctoral degrees, about master's research degrees, or about one of the other options that we have? Okay, so what we've got is about half of you are interested in doctoral degrees and about half of you are interested in masters by research and a couple interested in postgraduate degrees or diplomas. So I'm going to talk about doctoral degrees a little bit later on and master's degrees before that. But first, I'm going to talk about some of the ideas about why Wellington would be the place you'd choose to come to do a research degree. So why Wellington? Why Victoria University of Wellington? Well, we are the #1 research university in New Zealand, which I think is a great reason for choosing us. And it's not just us saying that. The government does a 6-yearly assessment of research quality at all the universities in New Zealand. And in 2012, we came top. We were #1. Then the next time they ran the survey in 2018, we came #1 again. And it's the first time any university has come #1 twice in a row. And we're aiming to come #1 again next time they run it. So that's really nice. We can say we're number one. What does that mean for you? What it means is that you, when you come here to do research, will be working with somebody who's an international expert in their field, somebody who's really good at research at the top of their game. And you will then, in a research degree, be in a one-on-one relationship with your supervisor. You'll meet with your supervisor every week or every fortnight, and you will develop over the course of the degree a really good working relationship where you'll be doing research alongside somebody who already has an international reputation in the field. That's fantastic. You also, in many disciplines, be working in a group of researchers. So it won't just be you on your own. It will be you, your supervisor, other supervisors, other students. We have, in fact, got 40 research centres across Te Heronga Waka, Victoria University of Wellington. So in the photo, you can see the Malahan Institute for Medical Research, which clearly does medical research. In the building alongside, which is a little less attractive, that houses the McDermott Institute for Nanoscience and Advanced Materials. We also have the New Zealand Climate Research Institute, which studies climate change, the Antarctic Research Centre, which does what its name suggests, and other places like the Ferrier that does carbohydrate chemistry, and the Robinson, which does really cool stuff. It works on superconducting magnets. Outside the sciences and engineering, over in the humanities, we have the International Institute of Modern Letters, which has amongst its alumni Eleanor Catton, who won the Manner Book Prize. Down at the business school, we have the Centre for Strategic Studies, which looks at international policy and strategy. And outside the university, we collaborate with companies such as Google and NASA on our research. We collaborate with government agencies such as NIWA and ESR. So we do great research in-house. We collaborate with companies and government outside. So that's why you choose Victoria University of Wellington. But why would you choose Wellington? And you all know it gets a bit windy down here, as it has done in the rest of the country this week. But look at the picture. You can't really beat Wellington on a good day. It's an amazing situation in this harbour. You can see the hills in the distance. We're also very close to nature. In fact, if you watched the video before we started talking, you'd have seen the Zealandia Eco Sanctuary, which is in the city. So you can actually get away into nature without leaving the city at all. There's lots of culture here. There are more cafes per square metre than anywhere else in the country. There's lots of startups, lots of creativity. It's the creative hub of New Zealand. It's a great place to live. And you don't just have to take my word for it. The Weta group of companies chose to base themselves in Wellington because of the vibe of Wellington. We also connect well with government and business. This is our law school. It's in the old government buildings. The entire civil service of New Zealand used to be in this one building. It now houses just one law school of one university. It's directly across the road from the Beehive, and the people who work in this building and next door in the business school don't just sit in these buildings, they walk across the road, they influence government policy. Our law school is one of the top 100 in the world, and next door in the business school there's a couple of more departments that are in the top 100 in the world, and elsewhere in the university we're also sitting up in the top 100. To show you how exciting it is to work at the university, the head of our School of Government, Girol Karagliou, used to be the chief economist and the deputy director at the New Zealand Treasury. He chose to leave the Treasury and come to work for us because of the freedom that being in the university gives him. It gives him the ability to do research in what he wants. And that's something that we hope we could offer to you too, the freedom to research something you are really passionate about. This picture's the law school. The head of our School of Law, Mark Hickford, used to be in the Prime Minister's Policy Advisory Group. He also chose to leave government to come and work in the university because of the freedom it would allow him. We don't just do business, we also do creativity. This is one of our other downtown campuses. This is the Schools of Architecture and Design. And they have really strong links through to the creative industries in Wellington, through to Weta Workshop and Weta Digital, but not just those big companies, through to the small high-tech companies around town, of which we have a lot. They just keep popping up all the time. And we have another research centre, the Computational Media Innovation Centre, run by my friend Tae Yoon Ri, who has set up a centre which combines design and engineering to bring those two things together in a research space. But we don't just do the technological side of creative research. We have the New Zealand School of Music. We have a film school, a theatre school, and over on the Miramar Peninsula, near the Weta group of companies, we have the Miramar Creative Centre, yet another campus, which is there embedded in the creative space so that the students who do courses there can directly access the creatives who work in those companies. If you come and join us, which we hope you do, what support will we give you? Well, my department, the Faculty of Graduate Research, looks after all research students. We make sure that you are well started, that your department that you are in looks after you properly, and that you have a supervisor who cares for you. So as a research student, your supervisor is that person who you will work with on a day-to-day basis. You'll meet them at least once a fortnight, and you will get into a really good relationship with them, as I said before. But we are there as the backup, as the administrative support office to make sure everything runs smoothly. I also look after the scholarships, run the scholarships committee, and the scholarships office is there to provide you with support in money. So we provide 120 PhD scholarships a year and a whole bunch of master's scholarships as well. So if you need finance to help you fulfill your dreams, apply for that too. The closing date for that is the 1st of November. And we'd love to see as many applications as possible. So that's a little bit about what we do for you. If you come to join us, what do you do for us? Why do we want you? Well, our academic staff absolutely love working with postgraduate students. It's just enormous fun to work with someone who's excited, creative, intelligent, bright, and wanting to learn. And that's what research students are. They really have a passion for their subject. They really want to be here. They know what they're doing, and we love working with them. So you bring a great deal of fun, enthusiasm, and joy to our life here at the university. It's also an opportunity to make new friends. There's a bunch of people on this webinar now, some of whom you would meet, and the friends you make while you're doing your research degree become friends for life. Of course, you learn new things, you improve your job prospects, and in the current environment, that can't be a bad thing. But I think most important of all, doing a research degree will change your life. And that's a lot of what our business here is at the university. It's to bring people in and to change their lives for the better. So I've talked a lot so far. And I think you shouldn't just believe me. I think you should listen to what our students have to say. So we're going to show you a video of some of our master's students talking about their experience of being here at Te Heronga Waka, Victoria University of Wellington.
My name is Karinia Malilinga Whianati, and I have just finished the 2-year program of the Masters of Architecture at Victoria University. The postgraduate study has been incredibly valuable. The things that I gained from doing this extra 2 years, I'm so glad that I did do it. Just thinking back to the undergraduate degree, I would not have been ready for the working environment. The people that I met, the networking, the staff that were there to support has not only set me up for a career in architecture, but I've made lifelong friends.
My name is Huan Yuxiao. I come from China, and I decided to come to New Zealand for further study. I enrolled the Master of Professional Accounting program with Victoria University. The support from university was tremendous. They were particularly helpful in terms of providing a lot of career suggestion and also provide me some roles in university which can add to my experience. I feel very familiar as an international student to Victoria University because it's a multicultural environment, and people naturally recognize that the people are different and people from different cultures can work well here.
My name's Helena Lawrence, and I'm studying a Master of Science at Victoria University. In the first part is a year of coursework, and then in the second part is research. I think the first year of coursework really helped because it prepares you to be more self-motivated. It prepares you to put yourself out there to be able to show, yeah, I can do these things, I can present this, and now I'm going to go on and do my research, and I think that's what really helped me.
The difference with the postgrad fourth year is that we were encouraged to think very critically. And then moving on to fifth year is a lot about independent directed study.
The qualification allows me to have both commercial knowledge along with my previous medical experience. So I found a job in pharmac. They appreciate my degree and achievement back in university, including my working experience as a research assistant.
My topic is a stock assessment of Patagonian toothfish. My project was proposed by CAMLA, so the questions came up in one of their annual meetings. It's a real world kind of question and they want real answers, and I'm hoping to provide that. NIWA was the one who proposed the project to me, and MPI is funding me, so it's really awesome to kind of be involved in all of these industries everywhere and just know that what I'm doing is actually relevant and people want to know what's happening.
Postgraduate study, it really does set you up for the real world. Obviously you can leave after an undergraduate degree, but the skills and the people that you meet during the postgraduate study opens your opportunities so much wider.
So thank you. So that's some of our master's degrees. Let's now go on and talk about the PhD. So the slide shows you a picture of a stonemason and his apprentice. So why am I showing you that when this talk's supposed to be about research degrees? Well, I like to think of a research degree as an apprenticeship. So let's think about what an apprenticeship is. It helps if you think about it in terms of stonemasonry. The apprentice stonemason there in the background, he doesn't learn to carve stone by going to lectures. He doesn't learn to carve stone by reading a book. He learns to carve stone by taking a hammer and a chisel and using them and trying it. He will make mistakes. He'll have a master mason attached to him who will show him how to do things, will talk him through things, will explain what he did wrong and how he can do it better. And at the end of an apprenticeship in stonemasonry, you can make amazing pieces of stonework, such as the thing in the foreground on the right there, that you couldn't have made when you started. Now, if we think about a research degree, like a PhD is an apprenticeship in how to do research. You don't learn how to do research by going to lectures or by reading books. You learn it by doing it, by making mistakes, by having your supervisor sit down with you and say, well, that went wrong. Let's talk about why it went wrong. Let's see how we can do it better. By letting your supervisor give you advice, by throwing ideas at your supervisor and having your supervisor critique them, and having your supervisor throw ideas at you and you critiquing your supervisor. It becomes very much a relationship of equals. Yes, they are the master and you are the student, but gradually you will know more. And by the end of a PhD, a student should know more than the supervisor, and the student should by that point be the world expert in the subject. So that's why I talk about it as an apprenticeship. You learn by doing. And what's the end result? Well, the end result is you get a degree. Now, if you come and do a master's degree, that shows you've taken your first big step to becoming an independent researcher. And the master's degree certificate says you've got experience of doing research. And if you get a sufficiently high mark, it means we think you're good enough to go on and do doctoral research. The doctoral degree is the one that allows you to put the word doctor in front of your name. And it certifies that you are competent to do research on your own. You don't need anybody holding your hand or training you. You are now a certified independent researcher, and you can go off and be the world expert in your area and do research without any supervision at all. So that's what we want to do. If you come to do a PhD, we want you to leave as a confident, competent, independent researcher and go on to do wonderful things in the world. So let's now talk about some of the practicalities. Everybody I'm talking to is going to have a bachelor's degree, the thing at the top. And the path to a PhD starts with a bachelor's degree. That lays a foundation of knowledge and skills in a particular field. And one of the research paths that you can see goes down the left-hand side of this chart. So particularly what in the video the young lady who was doing the Master of Science was talking about as a 2-year degree there. So you do your 3 years bachelor's degree, you then go on and do 2 years of a master's degree in science, where the first year is taught courses and the second year is research. And then you can go on from that, once you've got that, to do the doctoral degree, which is 3 to 4 years. However, there are other paths. For example, in the arts, the master's degree is 1 year, and before you do your 1 degree, you have to do 1 year of honours. You can also do this in the sciences as well, where you do 1 year honours degree and go on to a 1 year master's degree, which is purely the thesis. So both paths work. You need to check the particular regulations of the particular master's degree you're interested in to work out whether you can go straight into it and do a year's coursework and then a year of research, or whether you need to do your honours year first and then do a 1 year master's degree. There's a little asterisk on the left-hand side. The actual length of time for master's degrees depends. Some are 12 months, some are 18 months, some are 2 years. It all depends on the particular degree. So the general route, though, if you're going into a doctoral degree, is that you've done a master's degree first, which means you've done a 1 year research project studying under a supervisor and producing a thesis, which is examined, and you get a master's degree. The doctoral degree is then a thesis that's much longer, up to 100,000 words here, and it takes you 3 to 4 years to do it. Now, you'll notice that there's a dotted line going straight from honours degree to doctoral degree. New Zealand universities allow people with a really good honours degree to go straight into a doctoral degree, providing we're confident that you can survive and do well. Generally, what will happen here is the doctoral degree would take you a little bit longer than it would if you'd come in with a master's degree, and you've got to trade off that fact that you haven't had the master's degree against the fact you can probably get the doctoral degree in less than the time it would take you to do the master's and the doctoral together. Now, there's a little trick here, which is if you're not sure whether you want to get going with a doctoral degree right now, you could do a master's degree, and as you're doing the master's thesis, if you realize that this is something you adore and you'd like to actually do a lot more of it, we can, under certain circumstances, allow you to then convert the master's degree to a PhD, which simply backdate the start of your PhD to when your master's started, and we pretend you started the doctoral degree. It's a nice, safe way to get into a doctorate because you start the master's degree, you can always exit at the end with a master's degree after 1 year and go off and do something else. That's for those of you who don't particularly want to commit to 3 years right now. But if, of course, you do say, yes, I absolutely want to do this, 3 years of my life, I want to get doctor in front of my name, I want to do this, then we'd love to have you apply for the doctorate. So there's lots of options here. So let's now just talk about the application process. So you want to do a PhD. You have to apply by the 1st of November. You need to prepare an expression of interest, which is not a fully blown research proposal. You'd actually do the fully blown research proposal in the first 6 months of the PhD. It's an expression of interest. You're asked to answer 5 questions, which show that you've thought about what you want to do. You've got some idea of the topic. You've got some idea of how you'd approach it. You've got some idea of why it's interesting and why nobody's done this before. We really would like you to, if possible, have a chat with a potential supervisor just to make sure that this is something that they'd be happy to supervise. It's not getting a firm commitment from the supervisor. It just shows that you've got some interest and that you've talked to somebody about your ideas, so you've refined them just a little bit before you put in your expression of interest. You need to nominate a couple of referees people who already know you. So if you have done a master's degree or an honours project, it would be your supervisor, an absolutely obvious person to be a referee. They can tell us what they think about you and how well they think you could do research. There's a pile of documentation you need to get that together. And the great thing is, if you want to apply for a scholarship, and who doesn't? The application form is exactly the same. It's one form to apply for admission to do a PhD and a scholarship at the same time, same information, same form, same references. Now, I very strongly recommend that if you are going to do this, you don't aim for 1st of November as your deadline. You aim for the middle of October, because when you put your application in, the system will then email your 2 referees and ask them to write references. You all know how busy your lecturers are. You need to give them a bit of time to actually write those references. They can't do it on the evening of the 31st of October. They're probably very busy looking after their kids' Halloween parties. Now, if you want to do a master's degree, slightly different there. We run different master's degrees with different requirements. They have different enrollment processes. Most of them you can apply for after the 1st of November, and some of them you can apply for actually quite a long way into 2021. You've got to apply some weeks before courses start. But if you're going into one of the ones that has coursework, but some of our courses, there's just rolling admissions. You apply, it's assessed, and then we admit on a rolling basis. Go and check what the website says. You've got the website there. Check what they need you to put in as documentation and what their deadlines are. It would be dreadful to go and check the website and discover that you missed it by 2 days, so check it now. However, if you want a scholarship to do your master's, the deadline is the 1st of November. So you can't avoid that one because we do one round of master's scholarships a year, and the 1st of November is it. So with that, we come to the end of my talk, and we're now going to hand over to the question and answer session, which Rachel will moderate for us.
Thank you very much, Neil. That was really helpful and quite reassuring for those of us who are still deciding on what to do. We've been getting some questions from the audience already, and I encourage our attendees to post any questions in the Q&A function so that we can address them. That's just down the bottom of your screen. But first up, I'm wondering if you can please explain to our audience how we might go about finding a research supervisor, because that's such an important part of that process.
So if I can share my screen, I can show you ways to do that. Here we go. This is our wonderful, sparkly new website. If you come into the Victoria University of Wellington website and click on Research, then it obviously takes you to our research page, and then click on Research Degrees, which takes you to our Radical Thinking page. So on the Research Degrees page, you see here some information about applying for scholarships, but further down, there's Find a Supervisor. So if you want to find out who at Victoria University of Wellington supervises in your area, you can just type anything you like into here and see who pops up. It's not guaranteed that you'll find the right thing the first time, but let's try looking for people who are interested in 3D TV. Say you're interested in 3D TV, what happens there? And it will come up with our academic staff, in this case 77, who have somehow on their profiles indicated that 3D and TV is something they're interested in. Now, it depends what you mean by 3D TV, it turns out, because here we have Tricia Dunleavy, who's in the School of English Film, Theatre and Media Studies. She works in film and TV. But we also have Ross Stevens here, who's a friend of mine. Ross works on 3D printing. So it's not quite 3D TV, but similar ideas of how do you print 3D materials? What can you do with these amazing new, super expensive 3D printers? Miriam Ross is another of my colleagues who works in film. She is the world expert on stereoscopic cinema. So if you want to know anything about 3D cinema from the very earliest days in the early 1900s through to today, she can tell you all about it. And if you scroll through here, here's one of the directors of the Computational Media Innovation Centre, my friend Ken, and there I am. I do work on the technical side of 3D TV. I know how to design and build these things, which is why we chose this topic. So you can see that by typing in the search term, we've ended up with people from engineering, people from classics, people from film, people from design. So you get an interesting view. It depends on what way you want to approach things. And you can see that expertise is in many different places. So you may find things you don't expect. You may find people you've never heard of. But if you decide to say that actually what you're interested in, when you said 3D, you want to do a PhD in the history of 3D cinema and how that's developed into 3D TV, then Miriam's the person to contact, and you can click through to her profile, see what she actually does, who she says she is, what research she does. And if this is the right person for you, then you contact her through her email address. And I would recommend that if you're contacting a supervisor, you send a very short initial email saying, I'm interested in doing a master's degree or I'm interested in doing a PhD. This is a tiny bit about me. This is the subject I'm interested in. Please get back to me. If you keep it short, then they can respond, and they can respond, hey, that sounds interesting, let's talk more. in which case, next time you send an email, they know who you are and will be willing to read something longer. And if you've picked the wrong person, they'll be able to say, hey, I'm not the right person, but my colleague over here is. Why don't you contact them? If, however, you send a 5-page long essay as your first email, you're very likely to end up with not getting an answer because everybody's really busy. You know everybody's busy. So something short, to the point, that will then tell you very quickly whether you've got their attention or not.
Lovely. Thank you. So your advice is basically don't write a PhD before embarking on a PhD.
Absolutely not. Yes.
Great. Now we have had some questions about scholarships, and what I might do, instead of you getting to share your screen again, I'll just post the link to the scholarship website in the chat for everybody, so they can go through and have a look, unless there are particular functions of the database that you just want to show everybody, Neil.
No, I'm fine. If you go through to the scholarships link on our research degrees page, it will tell you about all the different scholarships that are available, the conditions that apply to them, and you can even spot if there's one that actually applies only to your specific area. And remember, I said that master scholarships, you need to apply by the 1st of November. That is a strict deadline. If you and your referees have not got your applications in by that date, that's it. We get hundreds of applications. Doctoral scholarships, applications are due 1st November, then 1st March, then 1st July. So you get 3 chances a year. But masters, sorry, it's 1st November or nothing.
Great. Thank you, Neil. Now, a question that we get quite often is, can a student do a PhD with Victoria University of Wellington if they're not necessarily based in Wellington?
So the answer to that is yes, you can, but we have to make sure that you are looked after. So we have a duty of care to you to make sure that you are supervised properly and that your well-being is cared for. Now, if you're in Wellington, your supervisor can meet you face-to-face, and you could say, well, we know how to do Zoom. We've been doing Zoom for months now, and so I can just Zoom meet with my supervisors. And yes, you can, but what you miss out on is interacting with the other research students, with the other staff in Wellington, and getting that community of researchers. So meeting with your supervisor once a week may sound great, but actually what our students find is they'll bounce ideas off the other students in the office or in the research group on a daily basis. So somehow you've got to be able to either cope without that, so be a strong person who doesn't need that, or find some way of bouncing your ideas off people locally. Or many research groups are now allowing people who are remote, because we have people stuck overseas at the moment, allowing remote people to Zoom into research group meetings. So I don't think there's really a lot of substitute for that just day-to-day social chit-chat and interaction. But yes, you can do it. We just need to make sure that you're safe and well looked after. And so we will ask you to fill in yet another form if you want to do that.
That's great. Thank you. And is there a lot of opportunity for students while they're studying towards their PhD to maybe get employment at the university, like as a tutor or those sorts of things?
Yes, there is. We employ lots of PhD students as tutors for our undergraduate courses. We like them because PhD students know what they're talking about. And it's really good for the undergraduate students to have somebody who is not as old as me talking to them about their subject. So there's lots of tutoring jobs going around. Different departments do different things. You may not quite get what you want, but yes, there's lots of work. There's also generally, in good times, there's lots of opportunities to do other types of jobs around town.
Great. So that's quite realistic to do some work while you're studying towards your PhD as well.
Yes, of course, I'd like to give everybody a scholarship so they don't have to work, but we have limited money. So, yes.
Great. Now, there's a question here about from a student who's done a master's that's done by coursework, how would they go about applying for a PhD?
So we're a little more cautious with people who haven't got any research experience, but that doesn't mean you can't apply. You'd need to demonstrate to the people who are assessing your application that, yes, you have got what it takes to do research. And that's a bit harder when you actually haven't got a previous research project to point to. If you have done a research project, such as an honours project, you can point to that. If you've got examples of substantial essays that you've written as part of your coursework, you can point to those. Now, in the end, the assessment of whether you get in or not, we depend a lot on potential supervisors to do that. So the person you've been talking to about putting your application together is also going to be one of the people who assesses your application. So they will be asked to give an assessment of you. So if they've talked to you on the phone, if they had email conversations with you, if they know you already, they'll be able to make a judgment which says, well, I've talked to this person, and yes, they've only got a master's by coursework, but there are these other circumstances that you need to know about. And a really good GPA also helps. So we look at, what I should have said earlier is when we're dealing with PhD students, we deal with everybody as an individual. So it's very much, we look at each person as an individual case. We look at individual life circumstances. So I made a little joke about GPA, but say you'd got your degree 20 years ago and your GPA wasn't great, but you spent 10 years since then working in the industry and then spent 10 years working in government as a policy advisor where you've been writing research papers every 3 weeks. I don't think we'd care about your GPA because your life experience over those 20 years would actually be speaking much more to us.
Cool. Now, for students who are doing a 2 years master's program, so the first year is made up of 2 courses and then they go into the thesis, they're developing their research topic while they're doing that first year, right? They don't need to have that all decided before they even start.
No. If you're coming to do a 2-year course where you're doing the talk material first, you work out the project during that course. And of course, what you'll do is you'll meet the lecturers, you'll go talk to people, you'll find out who's doing stuff that really excites you and interests you. And it may not be what you think's exciting right now. It may be that there's a really charismatic person who just makes you adore something you didn't think about. Happens a lot. So you'll work out what the research topic is as you go and hopefully have it set in place before you have to start the master's degree. If you come straight into a master's degree, you haven't had that year, so we actually give you the first month to try to get everything together and make sure it's all set up right.
Great. And how feasible is it to do a PhD part-time?
Perfectly feasible. The downside is it means you're committing yourself to 6 years of work as a minimum, so 6 to 8 years. You have to juggle the part-time degree with everything else you're doing. So trying to do a part-time PhD while holding down a full-time job and having young children is probably not the world's greatest idea. But equally, some of our part-timers just do amazing things. The one thing I'd warn you about is that the scholarships for PhDs are for full-time students. If you're part-time, you're not going to get a scholarship because we want to pay people to be doing the PhD full-time. If you're part-timer, we assume you have other means of support.
Great. And perhaps a good question to finish on, and depending on whether any more fly through as we're speaking, is what kind of support systems there are for postgraduate students to find employment after they've completed their program.
So there's the usual university employment transition system that you'll find at any university. But in terms of what extra we can offer, it's those links that your supervisor and your supervisor's mates have with the various people who are interested in what they're doing. So one of my students ended up going off and doing a postdoc and then ended up in a company that's a spin out of this university. So it's knowing who knows who. So it's building up that network of connections within the community of people working in your area over the time of your research, and your supervisor and the other people working in the same area in the department will help you with that.
Great. And of course, we've got our career development and employment service as well, who've got good connections with employers, not just in Wellington, but around the country, who'll also help students find employment and prepare CVs and all that side of things as well, isn't it?
That's right.
And yeah, we've got a question here too about support for Māori and Pacifica students. I know we do have scholarships specifically for Māori and Pacifica students, and the Māori and Pacifica staff and student body is very active and very connected on campus. Is there anything that you can add to that specifically from like a research perspective?
So from a PhD perspective, if you're Māori or Pacifica and you have a GPA of 7.5 or higher, then apply for one of the Māori and Pacifica guaranteed scholarships, because we'd love to have you. And I'd also say that our Assistant Vice Chancellor Pacifica, Winnie Laban, and our Deputy Vice Chancellor Māori, Rowinia Higgins, are both amazing people who have set up some wonderful support networks on campus to allow people to connect, because connecting people across disciplines as well as within disciplines is really important.
Great, that's fantastic. Now, just getting back to the full-time versus part-time question, is it possible for students to move from full-time to part-time, if other commitments come up with family or work? Is that a possibility?
Yes, that's completely possible. So going back to my point that everybody's an individual, and in a PhD, PhD students are generally older than undergraduates, and life happens. Family happens, circumstances change. So we have a wide range of ways in which we allow people to succeed while coping with whatever life throws at them. So moving from full-time to part-time is one of those. We also allow people to suspend the enrollment for a while if something happens where they just can't work. We allow people to extend at the end if things have happened where it just wasn't possible to finish in the time expected. So we do our best to support people through whatever life throws at them and allow them to succeed. Because if you come to us, we're committed to letting you be a successful person and then leaving with that wonderful certificate.
That's great. And that's the end goal in the end, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, we do have some international students who've joined us this evening as well. So is it possible for students to start towards their research degree at Victoria University of Wellington before they move to Wellington?
That's a very good question. It's we have enrolled 44 students overseas who have started their PhDs overseas. Just right now, we are just we just paused on that while we make sure that we are strengthening the care and protection around those students and around any new students who come in. There are some subjects where it will be completely impossible to start overseas because you just won't have access to the laboratories, but there are plenty of topics where there's a lot of work you could do before you needed to come to New Zealand and actually be on site. So yes, we have enrolled people overseas to start their PhDs, and we expect to do so in the future as well.
Great. Thank you, Neil. And it's really reassuring to know that there's so much support for students on campus when they're embarking on, what is quite a journey of development, really. So thank you. I think we'll leave it there. with regards to the questions. It's been great to get so many questions from the audience this evening. And if you have any other questions, then we'll send you an email address where you can address those questions too. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We'll hang around a little bit longer in case any more questions come through on the chat, and we'll respond to them in the background. But in the meantime, we'd like to leave you with a video that just tells the story of some of our students that are studying a PhD at Victoria University before we close off this evening. So thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
My name is Mohammad Zari, and I'm a third-year PhD student at Victoria University, and I study sonic arts. I look at using extra musical sonic byproducts of industrial technologies in a musical context by building sound sculptures that are inspired by these noises. Victoria has been really supportive from the beginning, for example, by just simply allocating 3 different supervisors from different departments to support my work. I'm enrolled in the music school, but due to the nature of my work, which requires a lot of practical and technical things, I have access to the facilities of the engineering school and their labs within like a 5-minute walk, which is pretty amazing. And both schools have been really supportive of what I've been doing. And the fact that, for example, the dean of the engineering school takes this time to sit and review all my papers and mark them down with a red pen, I think that's pretty amazing.
I'm Laura Roach. I'm studying at the School of Education at Victoria University, and I've just completed my first year of my PhD. I work with children with profound and multiple disabilities, and I am teaching them to request preferred items using different assistive technology. On a global level, we are providing more literature on different ways that are successful in teaching these children. And on a local level, just the parents who are looking at these children saying, wow, I didn't think he could do that. It's awesome. The research quality at Vic is highly regarded throughout the whole of New Zealand and internationally. The Postgrad Association here provides different scholarships that are really helpful in progressing research. Additionally, you can apply for internal funding through Victoria, which last year it sent me to Chicago, and earlier this year it sent me to Las Vegas to present research. So they really promote extending your experiences and your research capabilities.
My name's Greg Severinson, and I'm studying a PhD in law. My research is around the regulation that we need for carbon capture and storage in New Zealand, which is a technology designed to mitigate climate change by injecting CO2 underground. The doctoral scholarship is really useful in that you can do a lot of hours under the scholarship to contribute to the life of the faculty, so that includes things like teaching, research, collaborating with your supervisor or other academics in producing papers, and that really reflects the nature of the PhD program, which is more like an academic apprenticeship, I think, than just a qualification.
To be able to basically bring to the table what you have in your mind, discuss it freely and casually with your supervisor, that's very important.
Victoria gives a lot of support to its postgraduate students, I've found. The role of the supervisor is really important in encouraging you to think independently but guiding you, so I think it's a delicate balance to be struck, and my supervisors certainly do that well.
My time here at Victoria doing this PhD has been one of the greatest periods of my life. It's really fulfilling to follow what you actually like through an academic position.
It is really individualized work, which has a nice element to it. When you produce your final sort of research, it's all your own work. It's quite a good feeling.
You've got to be disciplined and set deadlines for yourself, because there's not going to be someone always looking over your shoulder to set them for you. But that said, if you're passionate about a subject, then that's its own motivation, and you feel naturally motivated to read and write and think independently.